Hey guys, it's story time. This is the story of what has become known as the infamous van incident, for reasons you will soon understand. About a year or two ago, as many of you know, I took a cosmetology course, started in August of 14, had to stop in mid-February of 15 for reasons I won't get into here, and this particular story happened about 2 weeks, I think, 2 weeks before I quit. I hate saying I quit, but I had to leave for health reasons, to put it simply. Anyway, so it was like late January, very early February when this happened. And it's just a random ass Thursday, and so and it was about time for lunch. And because of some social bullshit, some misunderstandings that, again, I won't get into because it's not really relevant, I'm sitting around, I'm gathering up my stuff, I'm like, alright, I guess I'll have another lunch alone. Again. Which, you know, some days was fine, but other days, like today, it was like, you know what, I don't want to be alone today. So I overheard two of the very few people in that class that I got along with, Kat and Mercedes, I'm going to call them, talking about heading up the street to the Dairy Queen to get something to eat. So I kind of walk over, I'm like, hey, I heard you guys were going to blah blah blah, you mind if I come with you? Yeah, sure, whatever. So we hop in the van, we hop into Kat's van, and we drive the maybe 10 minutes up the road to the Dairy Queen. We're sitting in the drive-through lane, talking, whatever, minding our business, and suddenly the van rumbles. And I mean this entire 2,000-pound Chrysler Town & Country 2005-ish, you know, the real big vans, shook. The entire thing shook. And we just kind of freeze, like, what the fuck was that? And then Kat looks at the fuel gauge, which is empty. Like, the needle is completely just down and dangling. There's nothing in the fuel tank. And so she goes, shit, I needed gas yesterday. I'm like, well, what the fuck? And so there's no one behind us, thankfully. She whips out of the drive-through lane, tears through the parking lot, goes across 2 lanes, into a turn lane, makes a wildly illegal U-turn into... There's cars coming our way as we're making this U-turn at a red light. Thankfully, nobody hit us, so we got to the turn lane to get into a Shell station, which was directly across the street from the Dairy Queen. It's a divided highway with, like, the little strip of grass and trees and shit in the middle, so we couldn't just go across. We get into the turn lane, and we're at that point in the turn where we're straight, we're lined up with the gas pump, we're straight, and then it dies. Just dead. So we're like, fuck. So Kat stays in the van to steer, and then Mercedes and I and some random lady, thank you very much, random lady, push the van up to an empty fuel pump, which happened to be the one that we were right in front of. We only had to push it like maybe 20 feet. I've never pushed something that heavy, and I don't want to do it again. I didn't hurt myself or anything, it just sucked. At this point, to me, it's clear we're not gonna be going to the fucking Dairy Queen. Because if we did, we would be running late for class, and this is important, I forgot to mention at the start. The way that the system worked for this class is, it's a lot like nursing or a science class, where your credit hours are basically lab hours, and if you don't have your credit hours, you can't pass the program. And because of the way it's set up there, if you are more than 15 minutes late when class is in session in the morning or after lunch, you don't get your hours and you have to go home. And so we're thinking, well, shit, we're already late as it is, we're pushing it, and so I'm just gonna go inside and get something to eat. I'll find like a Snickers or something. So I go in and there's not a damn thing, and I'm on my way out, and this random ass woman comes in. She was pissed. Oh my god. Normally I don't approve of making a scene, and I still didn't hear, but it was somewhat understandable. She storms in, shouting, what the fuck is wrong with you people? How the fuck does a gas station run out of fucking gas? This is bullshit! And just yada yada yada. She was so angry. And I'm just sitting there, and like me and 3 other people in the store just staring at her like, are you serious? And so she has her little rant and storms off, and there's like a beat of silence, and I kind of like sidle up to the guy working there at the counter, and I'm like, is she serious? You guys don't have any gas? And he goes, yes, we don't have any gas. And he kind of does that thing where like you pinch your brow just above your nose, like, And so I'm thinking, well, great, this is gonna be a good day. I walk out to the van. Kat is off on her phone somewhere, and Mercedes is sitting in the van. Having to stop and remind myself not to use their real names. And so I walk up to her and I'm like, you're not gonna believe it. She goes, what? I said, the gas station is out of gas. And she goes, I don't know if she said motherfucker, but her face was saying motherfucker. And so she gets out of the van and stomps over to where Kat is, and they start arguing. Because up to this point, Mercedes hadn't missed any of her credit hours, and she'd been really good and she was hoping to keep it that way. But obviously that wasn't gonna happen today. So she and Kat are arguing. I wander over to the median strip in the grass, and they've got like those weird like metal pole things. And I'm sitting leaning on it, and I call Shane up to ask him, hey, you know, can you bring us a gas can with some gas so we can get to class? And he was not happy. It was probably 12:30-ish when I called him, and he had gotten home from work after, I want to say like a ridiculous, like a 16-hour shift. He'd only gotten home at 7:30, or maybe even later than that. I don't know, we were sleeping in separate rooms at the time because our schedules didn't match, but he hadn't been home long, and he was asleep, and so I woke him up. I'm trying to convince him to bring us this gas, and I'm like, babe, you gotta come here, just help me out. And I'm kind of absent-mindedly watching what Kat and Mercedes are doing, and Mercedes kind of throws her hands up and she starts to walk up off the road. I don't really think anything of it, thinking, okay, she just needs to kind of take a second and cool off, because this is ridiculous. And so she just walks off, and I'm talking to Shane, and I think I convince him to come and bring us some gas. And I hang up the phone, and the guy that was inside earlier, the employee, walks out, and he's talking to Kat, and I go up just to see what's going on, and he says, I was able to unlock the premium tank, which had just enough for you guys to get out of here. And I'm not going to charge you a whole lot for it. This is back when gas prices were still kind of high, so a gallon of the premium stuff at Shell was like $3.45. We wound up paying about $8 for 3 or 4 gallons, which was enough to get us to school, and then to another gas station later on. And God bless that guy, man. Like, oh God. Because I know he'd been having a shit day too. I call Shane again, tell him, you don't need to worry about bringing us the gas, we're good. And I hang up the phone, and I see Mercedes is still a little ways up the road, but not within hearing range. And as I notice this, Kat walks up to me, I see Kat, and she's like grabbing at herself, like, you know when you forget your phone, you kind of like, you grab your boobs and your pockets and your purse? She was doing that, and I'm thinking, fuck. And then she shouts, Mercedes has my keys! And I'm thinking, fuck. And so I kind of run about 20 feet up the road, shouting after her, Mercedes, come back here! She can't hear me. And so I'm thinking, well, shit. So I call Shane a motherfucking third time to say, babe, I need you to come and pick us up. And as I'm saying that, Kat reaches into one of her pockets and finds her keys. I found them, we're good! I'm like, I'm sorry, Shane, I will explain it all when I get home, or when I see you in a couple of days. This is ridiculous, I'm sorry. And so we get into the fucking van. Mercedes is still a ways up the road, and because Kat is stubborn, we drove through the fucking Dairy Queen, got what we went there for, and we figured, alright, well, we'll see Mercedes walking on the side of the road, and we can stop and pick her up on our way back to the class. And we didn't see her. So it occurred to me that she was probably walking to a Sport Clips type place where she worked up the road, maybe half a mile. And so I called the store after Googling the location. This is important. Mercedes did not have a phone at that point, which is why I had to call the actual business to figure out where she was. So I Google the number and I call the business, and lady answers the phone. I say, hey, is Mercedes there? And she goes, no, somebody so-and-so who's here brought her back to the station to look for you guys. And so I say, thank you, and I hang up. And by this point, we're almost back at the school. And so we make another wildly illegal U-turn, tear through town, going maybe 15, 20 miles over the speed limit. We screech into the gas station. I hop out, dash around the little store. Mercedes isn't there, and I'm thinking, fuck. So I get back in the van again. We're going down the street to school again. I call the Sport Clips place again. Same lady says she's not there, but she isn't here either, so I don't know what happened. And so I said, okay, well, thanks, I'll let you know what's up. I hang up, and so I look at Kat and I say, okay, this is what's gonna happen. If we don't see her like walking on the side of the road and she's not in class, we will have to pull Miss Bailey aside. Again, not her real name. We'll have to pull Miss Bailey aside and tell her, look, this is what happened. We have to call the police. And, you know, so I'm cool, I'm calm. Somehow, I'm calm throughout all of this. And we make our way back to the campus. We get out of the van, we go to our dedicated little, like, trailer building. You know, like, I'm sure you guys have been to schools with trailers. That's what this was. Just specifically for our program. It's a really tiny campus. Anyway, so we go in. Kat walks off somewhere. She's on her phone, again, I think talking to her dad. I go in, and Mercedes is sitting in the lobby area on a bench with a bunch of other people who are in the class, you know, basically bombarding her with questions and just talking shit about Kat and I and all this stuff that was going on. And so, you know, I see Mercedes, I'm like, thank God, you're okay. And Miss Bailey comes out and she goes, okay, well, we've heard the story, we know what's going on, everybody gets a class. So we go into our little room and we're setting up to do some manicure shit on our little creepy dummy hands. And I'm sitting down, I'm getting ready, and Mercedes calls me over from across the room, and I walk over, and she says, with tears in her eyes, she says, I just want you to know I am not mad at you. I was not running off from you. I just had to remove myself from the situation. And I said, honey, I understand completely. The only thing that matters right now is that you are here and that you are safe. And, you know, we hugged it out. And I walk back to my end of the room and I sit and I'm, you know, fiddling with my stuff. And Miss Bailey walks up and she says, okay, I know you've had a tough day, but these are the rules, and you're more than welcome to stay and get your work done, but you will not get the credit hours for it. You can go home if you wish, but I would recommend that you stay and get your work done. And it was a Thursday because I was thinking, cool, I can go home early. And so I packed up my shit, left, I got into the car, called the Sport Clips place a third time, told the same lady that everything was cool, you know, Mercedes was safe, everything was good, she thanked me. Hung up, called Shane a fourth time, within the past hour. Oh, he wanted to kill me when I got home. And told him, okay, fuck it, I'm coming back. They said I could stay, but I wouldn't get my hours, and I'm like, what's the point? So I'm coming home. I come home, I change, I crawl into bed with him, and that's basically where my part of the story ends. There's a lot of extra shit that happened that wasn't really... It's somewhat relevant, but it's not as entertaining, so I'm not gonna bother discussing it. But yeah, so that's the story of how a gas station ran out of fucking gas. That's one of those things where when you hear about it, like you read it on like Reddit or something, you're like, that's stupid, there's no way that happened, you're just making shit up. It happens, I can tell you firsthand, that shit happens. Oh man, absolutely ridiculous. So, that's one of my hair school horror stories. I will tell some more later on. I have to kind of decide if some of them I can actually, not exactly legally, but if it would be okay for me to tell these stories. But thank you guys for listening and hearing me babble. I hope you enjoyed my crappy drawings, a la Undertale, like I did for that part. And I'll see you guys in the next thing of whatever the fuck I'm doing. So, if you liked it, please do. If you didn't, don't, but tell me why. And I will see you next time. Bye!